Good morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with HPE Networking Instant On. Today's host is David Nguyen, and he is their category manager for SMB North America, and he'll be presenting today. If anyone has any questions, please submit them in the question box, and David will be able at the end of today's presentation. David, thank you so much for being with us today. We greatly appreciate you here at Microcom. I am finished for now. Please go ahead and take it on over.
All right. Thanks for that introduction, Julie. And thanks for everyone joining today's webinar. So today I'm going to talk about Instant On 3.1, which is our latest release for our Instant On Cloud Management Portal. But before I do that, for anybody here who may be new to Instant On who has never heard of us, I'm going to go through a really quick refresh of who we are and also go through our product portfolio. For those of you who attended our last webinar, this is going to be very similar content to what I presented before. So if that's the case, then go ahead, grab a cup of coffee, feel free to multitask, and then you can jump back in as we talk about the 3.1 update. All right, so Instant On, we started this product line probably around 5 to 6 years ago with the intention of creating a portfolio specific to the SMB and residential market. We wanted to make a product line that was simple, secure, and smart, where you wouldn't have to use a hardware controller or any kind of extra software to configure devices. We wanted it to be extremely fast and cloud native from the start. So that's how we created this product line. And we wanted you to be able to manage all of your devices under a single pane of glass. So in terms of simplicity, it's there. It's very easy to use. It's very easy to onboard devices. You can use a web portal or a mobile app to do that. In terms of security, it's a very, very secure product. I would say we gain a lot of experience and expertise from the enterprise side of the house. If you're familiar with our brand, we do have an enterprise line of networking hardware as well, where we deploy in very large customers, very large logos, and very large use cases. And we're able to use a lot of that experience and expertise in our hardware design and use that same hardware design and same underlying operating system for the products in Instant On. So naturally, you're getting a very, very, very secure product because we have to have a lot of security built in for our enterprise side of the house as well. In terms of performance, all of our access points are Wi-Fi certified. We never release an access point that isn't certified with a Wi-Fi Alliance, so that gives you the best compatibility with Wi-Fi clients. And also all of our PoE switches are Ethernet Alliance certified as well. So in terms of testing and certification, again, this is something that we've kind of adopted from our enterprise side of the house. We go above and beyond to make sure that our products work correctly out of the box. In terms of fees, we don't charge anything for our management platform. So there's no subscriptions, there's no licenses to use our platform. In terms of support, you're getting a very comprehensive support package right out of the box. So for our devices, you're going to get 24/7 phone support for the first 90 days. And that 90 days starts when the device is onboarded to the cloud. And for the remainder of the warranty, you'll get access to online chat. And for our access points, that's 2 years. And for our switches, that's limited lifetime. And then lastly, what I'll say is that HPE Networking, Aruba as well. We're a trusted vendor in this space. We're number 2, just behind Cisco in terms of port shipped. So we've got a lot of expertise and leadership in wired and wireless networks. So when you deploy an Instant On product, have confidence that you're deploying something that's extremely secure and robust and that's trusted in this space. Okay, so here's a snapshot of our wireless portfolio. As you can see here, we've got 4 indoor access points, a wall-mounted access point, and also an outdoor access point. I would say going from left to right on the indoor access points is going to be lower client density installs to higher client density installs. I would say that if you've got maybe a front lobby where a lot of people are going to congregate, or an area where a lot of clients are going to be, I would highly recommend going with our AP25, which is our highest performing access point. It's a 4x4, so it's got the most antennas out of all the indoor access points. And then from there, if you have lower density areas, you can go with an AP22. Our AP22 and our AP25 are our best sellers in the category. So I would recommend, choosing between those two depending on what your needs are. If you need Wi-Fi 6E, we do have an AP32 that supports Wi-Fi 6E. So if that's a requirement, then you can use that access point. And then the last one here, the AP21, is really meant for just really small installs. Maybe you have an install of just 1 or 2 access points. This is going to be your most cost-effective kind of budget access point in the lineup. In terms of a wall-mounted access point, if you need something like that, then we do have one here. It's quite unique because it's got 4 Ethernet downlink ports. So if you need to connect extra wired devices to this access point, you can do that. It can also power up to 2 15-watt PoE devices. Granted, you give it enough power. So if you've got it connected to a PoE switch, you have to make sure that it supports 60 watts on that port to give the access point enough power. Or you need to buy the version that comes with the AC power adapter to give it enough power. And then lastly here on the portfolio, we've got our outdoor access point, our AP27. This is an IP67 rated access point. So it's very, very high IP rating. It can be deployed anywhere outdoors. It'll be protected against dust and moisture. You can't really see it here in this picture, but it's very, very well built. It has a full aluminum backplate for thermal regulation. So it's got a really wide operating temperature for outdoor use. And it also has a built-in surge connector. So if you, ground connector. So if you have any kind of ground connection that you want to connect to it to protect the back end of your network from surges, then that comes all built in. You don't have to buy anything extra for that. Okay, here is our wired portfolio. So you can see we've got the whole range as well. And I would say that if you're looking for a switch, especially a PoE switch to power access points, I would always start with the 1930 series. That's our best seller out of the whole category. In terms of features for the price, you're going to get the best product with the 1930 series. And then I think from there, depending on your use case, you can kind of go up or go down the stack. If you've got a more advanced use case where you're dealing with a lot of compute and storage, and maybe you just need more 10 gig connections to servers and devices, that's when I would start leaning towards the 1960 series. Also, if you're deploying a lot of access points where you need higher PoE budgets, the 1960 series does support higher PoE budgets as well. So very well suited for higher AP density installs. Otherwise, if you've got a more budget constrained network, or if you're just looking to deploy 1 or 2 switches, but you still want to have some type of remote management with the switch, that's when you can kind of step down into an 1830 series. And then beyond that, if you're just looking for a plug and play, a box of ports, then we do have unmanaged switches as well with the 1430 series. Okay, and if you need any fiber transceivers or direct attach cables for the switches, I highly recommend that you buy the Instinon branded versions. They're fully validated to work with our switches. We don't do anything to block third party, but it'll be up to you to validate whether third party transceivers work well with our switches or not. Okay, now on to 3.1. So I'm going to separate this discussion into 2 parts. I'm going to talk about the enhancements, which are existing features that we've improved or enhanced, and then I'm also going to talk about some new features that we've added with this release. So here is the first enhancement. If you're not aware, we took on a rebranding journey earlier last year, and so now the category is called HPE Networking Instinon, whereas before it was Aruba Instinon. So with 3.1, we are now updating the web portal and also the mobile app to include all of the new rebranding. So you're going to see a lot more of HPE Packard Enterprise branding, a lot more of the green palette, which is the official colors for HPE. So you can see that here. And then the other thing that I want to highlight is that we've changed the web portal for the cloud management. So you can see here, the new URL is portal.instant-on.hpe.com. So if you use our web portal to manage the devices, I would highly recommend that you use this new URL. The old URL does redirect to the new one, but we will deprecate that old URL at some point. So just make sure you're using the new one from now on. And then also the same thing with our web app. So we've updated that to the new HPE logo and all of the coloring to match. Okay. The next big change that we have with this release is that we're upping the device management to 125 devices per network site, up from 50. So we're essentially scaling up the size of the deployments that you can deploy in now. And with that scale up in size, you're probably going to be managing more clients as well. So we've also increased the client allow block list to 256, effectively doubling it from what we had previously. So hopefully this gives everyone more headroom in terms of deploying in larger scenarios. With the previous 50 limit, it's possible, like if you wanted to deploy 50 access points, you wouldn't have any more room for any PoE switches after that, right? Because our device limit was 50. But now that it's increased to 125, you have a lot more headroom with more access points, more PoE switches, and what have you. So it'll really allow you to scale up these existing use cases. And then we've also increased the walled garden to 64 entries. And this is really more for anybody who uses external captive portal. There are cases where you essentially need to put entries into the walled garden to make sure that you can get to an external authentication page for wireless users to authenticate if you're using an external captive portal. So we just want to make sure that we have enough entries to support all of the vendors out there. So we've increased it to 64. And then for the rest of the enhancements, I'm just going to talk to them. I don't have slides, but they're pretty straightforward. So for the software update delay, we've now added the ability to set the software delay ahead of time per site. So then that way you're not having to do it in real time. So prior to 3.1, if you wanted to set an update delay, say for example, the max 4 weeks, you basically would only be able to set it as soon as the notification happens for the new release. And you'd have to do that for every site that you're managing. So now what we've done is that instead of doing that in real time, you can now just set that ahead of time per site. So for example, if you've got one site where you just want it to be on the bleeding edge of the updates as quickly as possible, you can just leave it at the default. But if you've got other sites where you want to be a bit more controlled with the firmware update, then you can set them to up to 4 weeks max. And you can just save that within the site so that anytime there's a new release that comes in, it'll automatically put that delay in automatically for you. So you don't have to keep selecting it over and over per site. So that's a nice quality of life upgrade. For the state alert, we've added a new state alert for access points that are previously wired, but fall back to mesh. So this is in the case where you have an access point that's wired, but something's happened to the uplink. Maybe the link got cut, or there's something happening with the port or what have you. And that access point now has fallen back to a mesh state to get back to the network. If that does happen, we will give you an alert to make sure that you address it, right? Just to make sure that you don't miss it. Because if you've had an access point that's previously wired, that's your preferred method of getting back to the network, right? So if it hits any other kind of state, then we want to make sure that you're aware of it so that you can address it and fix it. And then last on this list here, BPDU root guard, that's really a fancy word for loop protection. If you're using a complete instant-on switch stack, you should leave this feature enabled by default, and it is on by default, because it'll help you prevent loops in your network and the switches will play nice together. But if you've got more of a mixed environment where you've got some switches from other vendors, it's quite possible that our root guard might talk well to somebody else's root guard and it might cause issues. So if that does happen, we do now have the ability to disable the feature if you need it. And that's new with 3.1. And also the same thing with broadcast and multicast storm control. If you're doing a lot of multicast traffic in your network and you find that for whatever reason the storm control is getting triggered and it's blocking that traffic now, you now have the ability to disable this feature on the port. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the new features for 3.1. Here you can see this is a screen of the site health. So when you're in your network site and you look at the site health, we give you a 24-hour look back of all the conditions that's happened in the site. So you can see here, for the last 24 hours, there are different time slices, and for each slice, you can click on it and it'll give you a list of conditions that has happened in the site. Prior to 3.1, we would just give you the list and then that's it. But now with 3.1, when you click on the specific condition, this sidebar will come up, and that sidebar will give you much more information on what the condition is. It'll give you the timestamp of when the condition exactly happened. It'll give you some probable causes and some recommended actions. So a really nice quality of life upgrade to try to help guide you when you're troubleshooting the network, depending on the condition that you see. And then also for the online product help, prior to 3.1 and 3.0, if you click on Get Help, it would just redirect you to a new site where you can go search our tech docs manually. So you'd have to put in your own keyword search and search for whatever you're looking for. But now with 3.1, we really try to help you, help show you the help that's most useful to you, depending on what page that you're on in the configuration. So here's an example. With 3.1, if you're on this particular configuration page, when you click Get Help, a sidebar will come up and it'll give you help pertaining to the page that you're on. So rather than you going out to our tech doc manual and having to search for exactly what you're looking for, now we're kind of just giving you the help that you need more specifically within the same pane of glass, which is nice. And then our last new feature, and this is probably the biggest one here, the newest one, is our event log. So now what we've done is we've added an event log per site so that everything that happens in the site is recorded. And this is also a 24-hour look back or a running 24-hour log. So anything that's happened in the site, whether a device has been added or removed or any kind of configuration changes, things like that, it'll all be recorded in this event log. And if you want to, you also have the ability to download this event log as a CSV file. So if you wanted to keep it, if there was something that you saw that was maybe a little suspicious and you wanted to keep a record of it, you can download or export the log and save it to your desktop. And this is what the file would look like, just as an example. So again, you can keep a safe record of this. And you can constantly do that. So if there's certain days where you just want to keep saving it, you can do that as well. And this is really our first iteration of the event log. It's not going to be the end. So we are constantly going to iterate and add and improve it. I think for our next release 3.2, we already have some additions that we want to add to it. But this is where I'm going to also ask all of you if you've got any feedback, especially for those of you who are using Instant On today and have already started using 3.1. If you've got any feedback on what you would like to see added, what you like or what you didn't like in the event log, then let us know, and we'll try our best to put it into the next release. Again, all of your feedback is very valuable to how we shape the roadmap of this product. So if you've got any opinions on it, I'd love to hear it. Okay, and that's it. Thank you very much, and I will pass it back to Julie for the Q&A.
Thank you very much, David, for that wonderful presentation. I'm sure we all enjoyed it. I know I did. Thank you. Let's see. We are going to launch into a few questions that we have here for you. Let's get started with the first one if you're good to go.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, terrific. Here we go with the first one. Can you tell us if there are any known compatibility issues with certain devices or software?
Compatibility devices with certain software?
Compatibility issues, yeah, with any of your devices or software.
In terms of like wireless clients or wired clients, I guess I want to be a little bit more specific.
You know, the question doesn't mention that, but If you can answer it any way you'd like, does that
Okay.
help?
Yeah, so I'll try to answer that. I mean, I think in terms of compatibility issues,
Okay.
I would say out of the competitors in the space, we typically have the least for some of the things that I mentioned earlier, right? We're always Wi-Fi certified. We're always Ethernet Alliance certified on our switches. We have a lot of testing and validation that we go through above and beyond what our competitors normally do because we've adopted that from the enterprise side. And then lastly, again, we use the same hardware design and underlying OS as our enterprise side. So in terms of compatibility, actually the feedback that we typically get is that the products just work out of the box at launch. Because again, it's like those designs have been fully tested already, even before they hit our Instant On product line, because they've been created on the enterprise side of the house.
Excellent. Thank you so much, David. Next question here. Can you tell us how does the AP11 handle multiple SSIDs and VLANs?
Right. So with Instant On in general and AP11 included, we support up to 8 SSIDs. So in a sense, you can actually map up to 8 VLANs, one per SSID as well. It's something that I'm doing in my home too. I have a multi-VLAN router where I've kind of sectioned everything out. So I have 3 SSIDs and I've mapped those SSIDs to their own VLANs. So you do have the ability to do that.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Next question here. Can you tell us what are, if any, future roadmaps that you could, maybe talk about here today about any upcoming features for the Aruba Instant On series?
So we do have another release coming in March, and I can't speak to the feature set just yet. The way that our engineering works is they have a very agile environment, so things can like come in and out of the roadmap pretty quickly, depending, or sometimes something will get pushed out to the release after. So we typically don't like to mention what's going to be in the release too early because of that. But as it gets closer to the March timeframe, we'll have another webinar like this where we'll talk about the 3.2 release.
Excellent. Thank you, David. That sounds good. And I do know that as you guys do have releases, you are totally willing to get online with us like today and go over all the details. So yes, we will definitely be doing that. Thank you. Okay, next question here. Let's see. What are some of the main benefits of using Aruba Instant On over some of Aruba's competing products?
As far as the competition, or?
Yes, I believe it. I believe they mean competition.
Okay. I mean, I would say that Instant On, compared to some of our competitors, especially when it comes to setup, Instant On is really, really easy to set up for the first time. And a large part of that is because we're cloud native, right? So out of the box, it just works with the cloud. And you don't have to set up any extra software. You don't have to buy an extra controller. And it's really scalable. So, for example, some of our competitors, you can only support 20 devices, right, with their controller that you have to buy. Or if you're running your own software, you kind of have to size up the server hardware to see how many devices you can support. We eliminate all of that complexity, right? So whether you want to deploy 1 access point at one site or whether you want to deploy 50 access points at one site, it's all really the same process to us. You're simply just onboarding the devices onto your cloud account, and you don't have to do anything extra. So it's really, really easy.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. Last question here for you, or perhaps there may be another. Can you tell us, and again, this might come into something that you might have to maybe disclose on our next webinar, but still the question here is, are there any plans to phase out older Instant On devices in favor of Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 7 models?
Right. So we've already started announcing the end of sale of some of our Wi-Fi 5. I think right now for North America, we have the AP17 left, which is our outdoor Wi-Fi 5 access point, and also some AP12s left. But they're running pretty low. So once that happens, we will do a full announcement on the end of sale for Wi-Fi 5. And so when we mark that date, the official end of sale date for Wi-Fi 5, we will support that product for up to 5 years, including the cloud management, but not limited to. So it's still up in the air how long that we want to support our legacy products for. In my opinion, we've already done the effort with the coding and everything, so I don't think it's too much of a hassle to continue to support it for a longer period of time. But just to make sure that we set the right expectation and that we draw, some lines in the sand, what we're saying with our end of sale is that we will support at minimum another 5 years of cloud management once we announce those dates for Wi-Fi 5. So if you're concerned with, in terms of, management, the duration, if you're concerned with that, then, I highly recommend going with Wi-Fi 6, right? Because we don't have any intention of end of selling Wi-Fi 6 anytime soon. So you won't have to worry about that. But, just to be completely transparent on our older Wi-Fi 5 gear, once we announce the end of sale date, it will be 5 years from their minimum that we support the device in the cloud. But I'm hoping it's more. We'll have to see how it goes.
Excellent. That sounds very good. Thank you for that, David. Last question here is regarding tech support. Can you guide us to the best way for anyone to reach out to you for technical support via your website, or what do you suggest?
Right. So on our website, if you look under, I think it's under resources, under support, it'll give you a couple of options for contact, one being our phone number, which is what I would try first, especially if it's the first 90 days that you've deployed the product. You have access to 24/7 phone support, so that's available to you. But other than that, there should be a chat option as well on that page, and that would be your secondary option if you needed to get support. And I think beyond that, if you're still not getting the help that you need, talk to your rep, and hopefully they can get in touch with us, and we'll try to help you as much as possible.
David, thank you so much for answering all of those questions for us today. And thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar as well. And if anyone does have any further questions, of course, please feel free to contact your sales rep or email us at sales@microcomtech.com. If you wish to view any of the products mentioned or shown here today, please remember that this webinar presentation has been recorded and will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so we can all view it again. David, thank you so much for your time and all of your valuable information for us. And we look forward to the next one so you can talk about a bunch of new stuff for us and what we have to look forward to. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Everybody have a fantastic day. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.